So everybody asks me when they call or when we're on the lives or the trainings, they're like, well, how do we beat inflation? Well, I don't know. How do you beat inflation? There's a lot of ways to beat inflation. You could buy an investment that goes up more than the 8.3% of inflation. That would do it, but that involves a lot of risk. And right now with the volatility, you're probably not doing so well, and you won't do well in the future when the market tanks. You could buy that crypto stuff, right? Oh, lots of risk there. We don't even need to talk about that. You could move your money, lend your money and do that, but that also involves some level of risk, even though lending to me is a very calculated, low risk type of investment because you have a collateral piece that's going to back your investment or your loan. That's why banks lend money. You could do nothing and allow your money to deplete at the rate of inflation, which is nothing more than a hidden tax. But what if I knew a way to beat inflation without taking any risk? Would you be interested? Well, this is going to be a short little podcast, and I'm going to tell you exactly what that is because I do know and I do own this vehicle that beats inflation right now. And what is this tip? Well, it's right in the name. TIPS. TIPS. Treasury Inflation-Protected Securities. They are government bonds that were designed to beat or trend with inflation. So right now, as inflation is running away, we were at 8.5, now we're 8.3. We'll see where we're at next time. They just opened an auction for brand new TIPS or inflation-protected securities, commonly known as I bonds. Okay, they just opened the auction for these bonds. Now, there's some rules. I went in and I bought two different series. I bought a 4-year and a 10-year at 9.62% interest for the next 6 months. And then it resets at wherever inflation is. So if inflation goes higher in the next 6 months, I'm doing well. If inflation goes lower, I go down a little bit. But you know what? I got some room to play with that because 9.62% is more than what inflation is. So I am crushing inflation right now. So how do you get these bonds? Well, it's simple. You open an account, you attach your bank account number, and you buy the bonds. Oh, well, that makes it sound easy. Well, it really is. I did it in about 5 minutes. That's about how long it took me to do it. That's right. You need your driver's license because they're going to ask for the driver's license ID. You got to remember your social security number. They're going to ask you for that. It's a government website. They're going to ask you to input your bank instructions where you want to pay for the tips. And that's about it. And don't forget your password because everything's digital these days. So you go to a website called Treasurydirect.gov. It's a government website. And you just open an account. And when you open an account, you just go to, I think it's Treasury Direct or Treasury Buy or something in there. And you click on that. It's not hard to figure it out. It's right next to the Home tab. And you buy the bonds. There's only two series. There's a 4 and a 10-year. Okay. Buy them both. Here's the deal. There are some issues with tips. That sounds so good. I got $1 million. I want to buy $1 million worth of tips. Well, you can't. You could buy $10,000 per person, per trust, per entity. So let me repeat that. You could buy $10,000 per person, per entity, per trust. I have 19 companies. I have myself, my wife, and my daughter. And I also have a family trust. So how many $10,000 purchases could I make? 19 companies, one for me, one for Larissa, one for my daughter, one for my trust, if I so desired. And you could figure that out. So you can place a good amount of money if you've got some entities, some trust, and a large family. But if you don't, well, hey, having $10,000 in a tip that pays 9.62% is pretty good right now. So in a matter of just a few minutes, I literally showed you how to beat inflation risk-free. Where's the risk-free part come? Because that doesn't make sense to some of you. Government bonds are backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government. And as of today, which is June 2nd, 2022, the government has never defaulted on one of their debts. And they probably won't in the future because, hey, what do they have? Well, they've got the unlimited ability to have the Fed just print as much money as they want. And they will print money to make sure their debts never default. So right there, for the duration of your life, I don't think you have to worry about the U.S. defaulting on its debt anytime in the near future. But when I say anytime in the near future, you're not going to hold these bonds forever. Inflation is not going to stay this high forever. Matter of fact, eventually inflation will give way to either stagflation or deflation, and the numbers will go down, down, down. And you won't want to own these tips. So the good news is the market for these, because this is an auction and it's only available for a certain amount of time. And when these 9.62% tips are gone, they're gone. You can't get them anymore. So the only place to get them is in the secondary market. And the only way you can get them is to buy them from someone like me, who bought them in this auction that I just told you about. So there's your tip. There's your tip on how to beat inflation risk-free. So that's a pretty darn good suggestion, right? Pretty good, darn good option for you to do this. The question is are you going to take action? Are you going to go to treasurydirect.gov? I get nothing for this. This is a government website, not like they pay an affiliate on anything. So I'm just telling you what I know because I think it's helpful. Are you going to take action? You're going to go to that website, spend the 5 minutes to create a profile. And literally the only thing you need is a driver's license, your social security number, and the routing number and account number for your bank account that you want to buy the government bonds in. And you go on and it's party time because you now just found out a tip, a secret that not a lot of people know about, how to beat inflation risk-free. And you can go to your friends and be like, dude, I'm crushing inflation risk-free. And they'll be like, yeah, right. How you doing that? There ain't nothing like that. That doesn't exist. It does. This guy, Chris Naugle, told me how to do it on his podcast. You should go check it out. Well, I don't have time to watch a podcast. Great. Keep doing what you're doing, dude. Keep doing what you're doing. See, that's the difference between getting knowledge and applying knowledge. The application part is way more valuable for you because number one, you got bragging rights. You now have a bond paying you more than inflation. So you're beating it. You've had a good day. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this short little episode on how to crush inflation risk-free. And I hope that you take action on this because it's not this knowledge that I just gave you that was worthless, but the application of it is pretty darn useful. And you'll have the ability to sell these bonds. Let me give you one more tip in closing. If you bought these tips right now for 9.62% interest, and in 6 months, inflation was going down, doubt it will, but let's just say it's going down significantly. You can't sell the tips in 6 months, but in 1 year, in 1 day, you can sell these tips. Now, there's a slight penalty because if you own a 10-year bond and you don't want to hold it for 10 years, there's a little penalty. So in the first couple of years, I think it's the first 4 years or 5 years, if you sell the bond, they're going to take back 3 months of interest. So let's talk about 1 year and 1 day. You buy it today, you hold it 1 year and 1 day, and you sell it. What are you going to lose? 3 months of interest. What does that work out to be? 25% in a year. How much would that net you? 7.77%. I did the math. 7.77%, even after you give three months of that interest back because you sold it way before maturity. Who's the winner in that equation? I'd say you are.